All right, so contract to purchase. This is one of my favorite forms because it's short and it means a deal is going down. Contract to purchase, about to make it super obvious what we're getting into right now, the contract to purchase, also known as the offer form. So the offer form, skip this section. You don't want to autofill this. How do we get past autofill, Ron? Exit. Perfect. So now you get in here. The buyer's name goes right at the top. This you should know. If you're representing yourself, you would put it here. If you're representing a client, you put their client's name here. Owner of record is perfectly okay to put. Sometimes you'll want to go, like I've seen agents go and put the actual owner's record that they see in the tax assessment, but they don't know that the property was transferred a couple months ago and it hasn't shown up. Just leave that empty. Just owner of record, leave it that way. Now underneath, you put the buyer's address. Owner of record, leave that alone. That is still an offer form. You don't have to fill all this information in yet. The buyer's offer price, purchase property. This is where the address to the property goes. This top line. So now this is like real filling out information about the property itself. Top line, it was introduced by the agent. So top two lines are really just one line. And then the second line, this third line here is who the agent is that introduces. You put your name, you put the team you're on. So in your case, it'd be Andrew McMurray, South Coast team. Does that make sense? Excellent. Purchase price. This is super simple. It's what the buyer wants to pay for the property. So you just type in the dollar amount right here in numbers. Now the deposit, typically as investors, as agents representing investors, we're going to put $100 on our offer. We don't want to tie anybody's money up on just an offer, right? Because we put in a lot of offers, we want to make sure that our investors are not, $1,000, $10,000 in their offer tied up. Only if they're super high end, and this is something like a play that they do, you'll see it's extremely rare. Ron and I don't do it. We put $100 on our offers and we see what happens. So you've put in $100 there. Check the box where it says delivered with seller's agent or to be delivered forthwith upon receipt of written acceptance. I typically check the second one. I don't typically send a check with my offer. I wait until I get an accepted offer, then I send the check. This way, no money's tied up, nothing's wasted. We're super efficient with our clients. We want to make sure that everybody's going through the process as easily as possible, not wasting time. Then, the additional deposit. This is where it's somewhat controversial in the industry. This is the gauge I'll tell you. If it's a $100,000 house, put $2,500 to $1,000 deposit total. So in this, we'd put $900 or another $2,400. This way, you're not tying up too much of their funds. Same with a $200,000 house. Some investors will only want to put the $1,000. As you go up in price, the agents tend to require a higher amount. They'll start asking you for a bigger deposit. I'd say it's typical, you could probably get away with 25 to 35 on a $200,000 house. Anything above that, they'll start requesting that it be $5,000. At the $200,000 to $300,000 mark, a $10,000 deposit is absolutely ridiculous. It's laughable. I've seen a lot of agents request it. You can say no. And your buyers should not be tying up that much money. It can, around the $5,000 mark for a $250,000 house makes sense. $500,000 house, the $10,000 mark starts making sense. So those are the averages. As an investor and investor agent, always keep the deposits as low as you possibly can. Because again, your investor's putting a lot of offers in, and you want to make sure you're keeping their money liquid until the right deal closes. That make sense?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Very good. So moving through, the duration of the offer is going to be typically 2 days. Whether we're putting this offer in on a weekend or a Friday or a Saturday, it's typically 2 days. Boom. Like, it doesn't matter, 48 hours. So it's 2, 2, 10, 10, 10, 45. And I'll go through what all those are. I'll go through those in a sec. Yep. Duration of the offer is 2 days from today's date, right? Then purchase and sales agreement is 2 days from the signed offer day. All right, so it's 2 days, 2 days. Makes sense?
2 days.
2 days, 2 days.
Oh.
And then we go, the closing, the closing is going to be 45 days from acceptance of the P&S. And then it's going to be 10 days. So right here you put in so right here is the 45 days, right? Usually put 2 p.m. or 10 a.m., 45 days for the closing. And then it's the Registry of Deeds, that'd be Bristol County. Escrow shall be held in escrow agent subject terms, endorsement, negotiation. Is this the one? Deemed accessible? Terms of offer, disagreement, blah, 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 blah. Deposit shall be held by. So this is the broker. So if you're doing a deal with Remax or Keller Williams and they're the listing agent, that's the brokerage that goes in there. So the escrow is held in that broker, the listing agent's brokerage. That's all you put in that line. Here are the other numbers, the mortgage contingencies. In this one, obligation to purchase conditioned upon written commitment. So the commitment letter is now 10 days from the 45-day mark, right? So if you put it out 45 days out, basically it's 35 days. So that's when the commitment letter should be. I always put it 10 days before closing. This way the commitment letter comes in time. So that's why there was 3 10s. 110 is an application to the mortgage. 110 is for the 10 days before the closing for the commitment letter, and the other 10 is your inspection date. So just think 2, 2, 45, 10, 10, 10. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Most lenders can close faster than 45 days, but most lenders will ask you to give them 45 days. They're capable of closing in 30. I know guys who've said they can close in 28 and 14, but they'll always ask for the conventional, yeah. Okay. But they'll always ask for the 45. Yeah. It's respect for the lenders. Now here in the inspection period, 10 days from accepted offer. As soon as the offer is accepted, boom, jump into home inspection mode. You get an accepted offer, get that inspector on the phone. Get it lined up, you got 10 days. If you get out of that period, submit a request. Before the end of that inspection period, submit a request for an extension. Always, always keep an eye on your 2 contingencies. It's your mortgage and your inspection period. Yep. Those contingencies, you keep an eye on them because they protect you. Yeah. Protects your deposit, protects your investor's deposit. Then, President's acknowledges this is if there's anything wrong with the property, any disclosures, anything that they should be told, like if there's asbestos or mold, it would be entered into this area, representations and acknowledgments. Anything that could be wrong, septics, anything like that. In this bottom part, additional terms, this is what we were talking about earlier. This is where your subject twos go in. If you're representing the buyer, typically in this market, we have the seller pay closing costs. So that line, and write this down if you don't know it, is subject to seller providing up to, and then the dollar amount, which is typically $5,000 on a $250,000 house, $5,000 towards buyer's closing costs, prepays, and points. Put those 3 in there so that they can be utilized.
Just CYA on it.
That's it. It's covering your butt, covering your client's butt.
Pretty cool.
Other things, other common contingencies are subject to seller finding suitable housing, subject to buyer selling their property, and then put the address of the property in there. This way they can go research whether you've put it on the market yet. This is the most common ones. There are a dozen other, anything is super negotiable. You can put seller financing terms in here. You can do subject to existing mortgage terms in here. There's a lot of different pieces that you could put into this section. Is it making sense so far?
Yeah, good stuff.
Very good, very good. So at this bottom part, you notice there's a signature for the buyers. Then underneath it, this is the section where if somebody submits an offer to you, this is where you can go back with your seller and review and counter the offer. So if you accept the offer, boom, just sign right here, signatures all set at this date. If there's a counter offer to be made, you're checking this part here. Check the rejects offer, makes a counter offer. In this section is where you change the terms, whether it's price, closing time, removing, like sometimes people will ask for things subject to seller fixing roof or replacing roof. So this is where you can get those things removed. This way you don't have to accept everything on the P&S. You can go back and change it. Or you could type in C changes above with initials. And you can go and make the changes in the actual document and have the initials in there.
Yeah.
Both options are okay. Then you set the signatures, and the counteroffer shall expire is a section where you put in usually another 2 days. Usually it's 24 hours, 48 hours. At this point, there is another section for the counteroffer on the buy side. So buyer knocked it in the park this way, seller knocked it back. the buyer has one more chance to negotiate on this particular contract. Just because it's gone back and forth this many times does not mean you can't start fresh. There's always a chance to renegotiate again and again and again. This is the offer form. Any questions on the offer form?